What's up, everyone? First, I just wanted to extend a lot of love and peace and blessings to all of you who have just continued to show your support and encouragement. I definitely look forward to, your feedback in the future, even if it's like certain things you would love to hear about, any topics that are of interest and you would like to hear just from a psychotherapy standpoint, right? So I do want to say thank you to everyone that has just liked everything and subscribed, commented. I want to give a special shout out today to Freedom's March because the good brother definitely the last couple times that he's had a live, he has definitely encouraged those to come check out the channel here, as well as BFTV, Drew Titan, Tay Tay, Shawa. So it's so many of you. And if I did forget anyone, just charge it to my mind. We all know that I'm no longer in my 20s or 30s, right? And glad to be here. But don't charge it to my heart, just charge it to my mind. I appreciate each of you. So if you remember last week or week before last, whichever, we did discuss just that emotional mind versus the wise mind. And we were coming from DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. And that's where we say that two opposite things can be truthful and true at the same damn time, right? Additionally, from that, we also talked about just how we could look at both spectrums, into the spectrums. And if we're too far on each, then we know we might be a little bit off balance. I don't typically use good or bad just because philosophically speaking, who determines what is good or bad, right? And so we can kind of get lost in the weeds, even utilizing that verbiage. Today, this is another skill that does come from dialectical behavioral therapy, which was a modality that was developed by Marsha Linehan, and it's the stop skill. So you might say, okay, I checked out, the last video in regards to emotional mind and wise mind. But what if the situation is getting to the point where I'm just totally bypassed it? Like I can't get myself to even think about if something is emotional or logical. And am I in my wise mind? It's all good. We got something for that too, right? And it's the stop skill. So maybe you drive. I'm sure all of you have maybe ridden in a vehicle before. And so as you're approaching that stop sign, big red sign, right? We know what's supposed to happen next. It is up to us to stop. Now, if you're like me, many years ago, when I first began driving, I was not the best with stopping. I would kind of ease up to the stop sign. I would look here, look there, and I'm like, oh, I got this, right? Well, we do the same thing with emotions. The problem is, what if something is coming on that blind side and you didn't even see it? Now we got a whole nother situation, right? Um, we do the same things with our emotions, with our actions, if you will. And so what we're going to learn today is that give yourself some grace because every action, regardless of what we've heard people say, that cliche, I used to say it all the time, every action does not actually call for a reaction. Just think about that. Really, is every action that is presented before us, do we always have to react? I mean, just think to yourself. Um, a lot of us stand for a lot of different things in life, right? Obviously, depending upon what our values are, our core values, that core belief of who we really are, what makes us us, right? And so I often ask, okay, if you're standing for everything at every moment, and you're fighting for everything at every moment, how is it that you distinguish which one was really worth fighting for? Because what I'm hearing is this maybe we're more reactive. And typically when we become reactive, our blood pressure is going to go up, right? A lot of things happen in the body. That's a whole nother conversation, but it's definitely not healthy for us to always stay in that type of mode. Okay. So the stop skill. The S in the stop skill, which y'all will learn, is DBT has so many acronyms. Some of them don't even make sense, to be honest. Like it just doesn't line up with the letters, but whatever. So the S in stop skill says stop. Just freeze for that moment. If we're having a surge of emotion, a surge of a craving, if one suffers from an addiction, if we're having a surge of self-harming urges, whatever this intensity looks like in our feelings or our emotions, at that moment, just stop. Freeze for that time. Give yourself that time. The T says take a step back. Now, that can look differently for so many of us, right? Because in certain situations, we may actually have to physically remove ourselves from that environment. It may not be the best for us to stay in that environment. So that taking a step back may require us physically removing ourselves. Also, taking a step back can be a mindfulness activity. Mindfulness activity means anything that you enjoy that is going to really just totally get your focus and allow you to be present in it. And you're not ruminating, obviously increasing that surge of emotions or feelings to go any higher, if you will. Taking a step back then could look like listening to music. You might listen to some of your favorite YouTube content creators. You might go on a walk. You might exercise. Okay? So many things we can do. You can do things like maybe take a hot bath, take a cold shower. For some people, that works, right? Drink something hot. You would be amazed at how just even changing the temperature can help us come down a little bit more when we feel more regulated. Okay. So the S, we said freeze in that moment. The T, we said take a step back. The O just simply says observe what's happening within you and what's happening around you. Remember, we go back to that example I was using about us driving sometimes and we approach the stop sign. We clearly see the stop sign if we are aware and we are present when we're driving and we're not distracted. We see the stop sign approaching. We must slow down first, not to confuse the stop sign with the yield sign, right? So we slow down and we stop. We take a step back. We observe what's happening within us and around us. So you may peep around if we're driving, right? Make sure the area is totally clear, making sure that it's safe. For emotions, you first want to validate your feelings. Observe what's really happening inside of you. Is this a feeling that you felt before? Does it feel just like another situation? Is it familiar? Because so many times we exhibit a lot of emotions and behaviors, right? And we've been there before. We almost one of those things where we can say, we like, what's that saying? What do they say sometimes? They're like, oh yeah, been there, did that, sent the t-shirt home. Yeah, that part, right? So if it's familiar for you, it's happening. You want to validate that, okay, wow, this may be something that, I might want to look at because I'm noticing that anything that smells like it, looks like it, walks like it, sounds like it, I become reactive. I react the same way. I have the same intensity of emotions that come, inside of me. After you've done that, you then want to observe what's happening around you, right? Because sometimes our response or our reaction may not match our surroundings, right? Remember we talked about a couple of weeks ago about being in that emotional mind. That means that once one is in an emotional mind, it's very easy if we don't get a grip on that and get back balanced again for you to be more reactive, right? You're going to be more reactive. So what that looks like is, say you got a situation going on. Let's say something like it's a situation going on at work, you know, might be filling some orders. I don't know, right? Just come up with something light. And the new employee screws up the orders. Well, shit happens. You know, we're all human. So definitely we might make a mistake, might not be as attentive to our jobs, might not be paying attention, whatever, right? And this is the first time that they've ever made a mistake. This is their first week starting this job, and you react on a level 10 to them. That's your reaction. Now, the situation, if you observe, like I said, after you've observed what's happening within you, if you observe what's happening around you, did that really call for a 10? Maybe they might just need you to provide a little more training, right? See, observing, stopping, taking a step back, observing what's really happened, checking the facts can allow us easier to be able to go into that wise mind. Because we're giving ourselves that time. We're not just thinking like, bam, this happened, I got to respond. Bam, that happened, I got to respond. Who says you have to? A lot of times we respond to stuff that is not even worthy of our energy, right? It's not worthy of our time, all the above, right? So now you've realized, wow, I reacted in this situation with someone making a mistake in the orders on a 10. Could easily be corrected. So now you're realizing, wow, that was like a level 2, and I was on a level 10. The P says proceed mindfully. Now, I like this part a lot because there are a lot of situations where it still may not be safe to proceed mindfully, i.e., go back to when we're driving, we get to the stop sign. You don't see anything coming right away. You ease up a little more. Oh, you see a tractor trailer coming. Now, just because something in you might say, oh, I can make it across in plenty of time, right? I would not recommend that everything is safe for you to proceed. For instance, say if you have a disagreement with your partner or a loved one, your child, friend, just because they may say something that you don't agree with or you do not like, it may not be the time for you to respond. And in that time, it's not safe for you to proceed with having a conversation. It's not safe to proceed with having a discussion now about the situation, especially if you are aware enough to realize that you're more in that emotional mind, right? Or you're more in that logical mind, that rigid thinking, where you may not be able to be flexible and validate their feelings. Because remember, validating someone else's feelings does not mean that I have to agree with you. It just means I want you to know I heard you, right? And then you may determine, okay, now's the time. The intensity of emotions aren't there anymore, and I can proceed mindfully. Remember, we talked about the intensity of emotions, and I'll say it time and time again. It's been proven factually that the intensity of our emotions only lasts about 90 seconds. It's us. who keep that same level of intensity. We have way more control over ourselves than what we even give ourselves credit for, right? Just a different way of thinking about it. I do hope that this skill will be helpful in going forward in just your day to day. I'm hoping that it'll be just a part of that lifestyle where you're more mindful of certain things like that, more aware, having that insight, giving yourself that which you need so that way the next day or the next hour, you're not having all these regrets and all of this stuff, right? I just encourage each of you to continue to just be kind to yourself. Give yourself that space and grace when you need it. Extend to self that which you extend to others. If it's kindness, be kind to yourself. If it's compassion, be compassionate to yourself. If it's patient, be patient with yourself. For we're all doing this thing called life for the very first time. Peace and blessings to you all, and I hope that you enjoyed this week's video. All right.